Narcissist blame shifting occurs when narcissists refuse to take accountability for their actions, instead projecting responsibility onto someone else. Within the context of narcissistic behavior, it transcends mere deflection. It's a psychological sleight of hand that impacts the emotional core of the victim. Narcissists are adept at using a myriad of tactics when shifting blame from themselves onto others. Whether through artful denial, projection, or playing the victim, they manipulate the narrative to evade accountability and maintain their facade of perfection. Blame shifting by narcissists is a carefully crafted strategy that allows them to evade accountability and protect their self-image, in the process upholding their sense of superiority. The following are various tactics utilized by narcissists when shifting blame to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. By utilizing these tactics, narcissists perpetuate a toxic cycle where they continuously evade accountability and reinforce their belief that they are above reproach. Denial is a primary tool in the narcissist's arsenal for blame shifting. In this context, the narcissist utterly refuses to acknowledge their role in a conflict or problem, pretending that the particular event or behavior never occurred. This firm dismissal creates an alternative reality in which they absolve themselves of all guilt. By refuting the existence of their misdeeds, they often leave their victims bewildered, searching for clarity in the midst of deliberate obfuscation. Gaslighting is a subtle, yet powerful form of psychological manipulation used by narcissists to shift blame onto their victims. It involves sowing seeds of doubt, leading the victim to question their own memory, perception, or sanity. The narcissist will deny their wrongdoings, distort facts, and use misdirection to confuse the victim. This derogatory strategy is employed to undermine the victim's belief in their own judgment, making it easier for the narcissist to impose their narrative and evade accountability. Splitting is another psychological manipulation technique favored by narcissists, wherein they paint individuals or situations in black and white terms, with no acceptance of the nuanced middle ground. In the context of blame shifting, narcissists will label their victims as completely at fault and themselves as entirely blameless, effectively turning the situation upside down. The victim is portrayed as the perpetrator, responsible for the discord, while the narcissist positions themselves as the blameless hero. When narcissists externalize blame, they project their own shortcomings and mistakes onto their victims, forcing them to bear the emotional burden of errors they did not commit. This tactic effectively distances the narcissist from any fault or guilt and places undue stress on the victim. Not only does this hinder the victim's ability to trust their own judgment, but it also allows the narcissist to sidestep scrutiny and continue their harmful behaviors unchecked. Narcissists are particularly skilled at playing the victim, a tactic that allows them to invert the reality of their misconduct. They portray themselves as the aggrieved parties, suffering at the hands of those they have, in fact, victimized. This role reversal is not merely for sympathy but strategically executed to divert attention from their actions. In adopting the victim persona, the narcissist garners support and validation from those unaware of the manipulation, further entrenching themselves in a position where they are beyond reproach. It's a cunning ploy that not only confuses the actual victims but also enlists unwitting allies to the narcissist's cause. Rationalization is another key component in a narcissist's arsenal for shifting blame onto others. Through this psychological defense mechanism, the narcissist concocts convincing but false explanations for their harmful behavior, effectively distorting the truth to avoid accountability. Rationalization allows them to deny responsibility by fabricating justifications that seem logical on the surface, thus making their actions appear reasonable and often painting themselves as the victim of circumstance. The emotional and psychological toll on the victims of blame shifting is both profound and multifaceted. Victims who are constantly being blamed for things that are outside of their control often end up questioning their own worth and abilities. Over time, this can significantly erode their self-esteem, making them feel unworthy and inadequate. The manipulative tactics used by narcissists instill a deep sense of confusion in victims. They begin to doubt their own memory, perceptions, and even sanity, which can be immensely disorienting. Living in a state of perpetual blame and criticism can trigger or exacerbate anxiety and depression. Victims live in constant fear of the next blame game and suffer from long-term psychological distress. Narcissists will also try to isolate their victims. They shame them and simultaneously cut them off from their support systems, making them even more vulnerable. The chronic stress of dealing with a narcissist can manifest physically, potentially resulting in issues such as insomnia, headaches, or a compromised immune system. After prolonged exposure to blame shifting, victims may feel powerless to change their situation, a condition known as learned helplessness, which can hinder them from seeking help or escaping the abusive environment. The intense and confusing dynamics of a relationship with a narcissist can make it difficult for victims to establish and maintain healthy relationships with others, both personally and professionally. In some cases, the experience of being with a narcissist can be traumatic, leading to post-traumatic stress disorder and requiring professional treatment to heal. As a coping mechanism to deal with the emotional pain, some victims may even resort to substance abuse. Victims may lose a sense of who they are as they constantly adjust their behavior to avoid the narcissist's blame, leading to an identity crisis and a loss of personal values and beliefs. Understanding these detrimental impacts is crucial for victims and their support networks to seek appropriate help and begin the healing process. For more information about narcissists and narcissistic abuse, visit www.carlacorelli.com.